This is the solid waste consortium meeting for Lincoln County. Today is January 25th. It's our 1 o'clock meeting for our monthly meeting. And I'm calling the meeting to order. We do not have a quorum today. However, I will go around the room and introduce everyone who's in the room. Today's meeting is important because we're going to put it into minutes for all the other groups, things that must be done by next time. So that's a critical element. So I am Paul Seitz, Lincoln County Solid Waste Manager for the I'm the solid waste manager for the solid waste district. And on the consortium, I'm an operations person helping organize things here. So,
I'm Cynthia Jacoby, Newport City Councilor.
Kathy Short, Mayor, City of Depot Bay. Jane Welch, Treasurer, Tax Collector for Lincoln County.
And Nancy Hale, Lincoln County Environmental Health and Vital Records.
excellent. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Let me get glasses on.
Mine go on and on.
All right, so we need to approve the minutes from September 28th. Since we do not have a quorum to do so, I don't know the formal processes of doing so, if that gets pushed to the next
Right.
meeting. So
Yeah.
we just pass that and go on to the next meeting. You want to go over, Jane, the bills then, or recent bills?
So I don't know if you recollect, but together a spreadsheet back meeting on September 28, 2023. Stating that the orders were dated from Wednesday, November 2 of 2022 through September 8 of 2023 with regards to the billings or expenses and the members and their percentages who have paid. So the bill expense at that point was $169,488.70. I've since put together a recap, excuse me, for calendar year, beginning with January 6th of 2023 through January 5th of 2024. So those expenditures look like 128, 592.78. And the reason why I did the two comparisons between calendar year and fiscal year is to make I don't know if there's been a decision made of whether we want to go calendar or fiscal
Or
for the
for
consortium,
the consortium?
right?
For convenience, we may want to do so just to match the county's processes.
But I didn't make that
Yeah,
decision.
whatever is the best.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
But
I
thank you
I
for-
agree fiscal is the right way to go and our brains work that way. So for Lincoln County, our fiscal year starts July 1, so, and goes through June 30. So with that said, next meeting, I'll put together an analysis of what happened. What we expect will be expenditures from the reports that Paul sends to me and get kind of a timeline as well as the expense line, put that together so we can all look at that together.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So to just update on billing itself, which we'll kind of get into a little bit later when we talk about the well study. We did turn off the power and the pumps and that has significant change in the amount of dollars and bills that impact the
Yes.
consortium. And so if you see strange numbers, we've always paid $70 a month or whatever that dollar is. And now it's suddenly different. It's probably because of this study. It's going to cause things to go wonky. We're going to have higher engineering bills and lower electricity and other bills for the short term as we turn on and off and play with this system.
And to report with that, for instance, what Paul's speaking of is the City of Newport sends us a billing for these pumping activities. And so typically they're, they're 3,700, 5,700, 5,400, and so forth down the line. So during the month of December and January, when it was turned off, $135 or
Wow.
$252, both in December and January. So there's a significant amount of change when those pumps are turned off.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
thought that there was an error in the
Yeah.
billing, so I'm on the phone saying,
Uh-huh. Good to check on that.
but
Yeah.
clearly, that's a significant
It-
change in dollars.
Any problems with the turning the pumps off?
No, we had no issues from turning the pumps off, as far as water levels and so forth. When I get to the study part, we're kind of going into some of the details there, for the positives that happened. One additional billing thing, we use an engineering firm currently who got bought out and they're now Wood, I think is the short version of WSI, I think is the full, that company, is doing business a little bit differently, and they have subcontracted engineering, which is Vista. So to keep things clean and easy, we will start receiving billing from Vista directly here. And just so that everyone kind of hears, well, what are these new engineering? It's actually the same engineering groups, but as we are looking at the billing more fine tuned, we're just getting direct billing from each of the entities rather than have it go through an overhead system.
Okay.
So,
And we have received one of such billings from the Vista Geo Environmental Group for $4,600. We received that in December and got that paid.
excellent. Any other questions,
Well,
comments?
Do
concerns?
do you anticipate that the engineering fees will total more than the money saved on the electricity turnoff? Or you can't tell yet? I mean-
I imagine we're gonna have far more savings in leachate and electricity than what the engineers will cost us for doing
Okay.
the study. So,
Okay.
during that time, it's gonna be off and on and off and on. We're gonna do another study. But my anticipation is we will be money ahead this year as a result of this, because the leachate alone is so a significant amount.
Mhm.
I think just easiest way to say that. And I don't think they'll have $10,000 engineering fees, and I think they will have saved $10,000 in leachate. So in that the
Thank you.
Newport sewage treatment plant might be going, hey, our budget's changed a little bit, but that's on your side of the equation. Financial assurance and budget. So financial assurance first. Every year, and Lincoln City has a formal request to us for the 2022 or 3 financial assurance for this year. I guess for 23 is what they're asking for. And I talked to Wayne about it. So the financial assurance we're going to do every 2 years. This June, I've asked Vista to work, and this is the 2023 financial assurance report that comes out from the engineering firm saying that we have money. It's a statement that we give DEQ that says we in fact do have money in reserves should there be an event at the landfill. And so he's going to work on that report, and they estimate how much our costs are in the future and what the overall cost is and how much money we've all saved, and say that we have an assurance to maintain this landfill. And that's what that report will reflect. So we will get billing probably in June-ish for that. We should get the report, and it should be issued by August this year. So we will not have any report for financial assurance until about August, but it'll be the 2023 financial assurance report that will come out. And budget. So here's our first big line item chat. Katie and Wayne had a meeting. If you will recall, last time we met, and this is sort of one of the reasons we kind of delayed for a little bit our meetings. We wanted to have clarity. If we have $150,000 building to take down and our maximum budget is $150,000, what does the consortium have in budget authority? And how do we get to that point? Wayne and Katie, and she said, no, I want the building down now. And Wayne was saying, no, we need to wait and put this into a different financial structure. They have met. And so there's 2 proposals that are in front of us, which is we either keep our existing $150,000 casual budget, which does not have to go through this formal budget law process, or we create a formal budget. And the recommendation, since we have a number of expenses from increased engineering to taking down a building, to perhaps someone says, we want to plant something or do something different with our landfill in order to prepare for a future, we may want to have a formal budget process now, whereas the last 30 years, it was not necessary, or that was probably the last 15, 20 years, because it was just in maintenance. There was nothing changing out there. And now we're looking at changes and doing things. So in order to create that formal budget, Wayne sat me down and gave me the parameters, and what we would need to do is, if let's say July 1st will be the beginning of our budget year, we need each city member, and so this will need to be reflected directly in our minutes. And this is what the important is for
Excuse me.
next time.
Is this on a page we have?
No,
that
it's
you're
not.
referring
I'm
to?
sorry. I'm
Okay,
still
it's
just
all right,
reading,
okay.
and I will get you these documents. My apologies.
All right.
That each consortium, so this is a theory at this moment, which is why you don't have it. So.
Still in draft mode.
I'm still in draft mode. Each consortium member would assign a budget committee member. So if everyone comes to next meeting with an assigned person, so that when we start the meeting, everyone has in hand a name, or if they've sent it into Nancy, a name that is my budget committee member for the city of, and they designate it, and Katie would designate a committee member as well. So then we have now a budget committee. And so everyone would assign a budget committee. At the next meeting, we would put that into our minutes as here's the assigned budget committee. In March, we would then come through and approve the 6-member budget committee. We would assign a budget officer, of which Wayne recommended that I could act as that for this group, or if the group would like someone else, that's perfectly fine. I was trying to get Wayne not to recommend that, but that was his recommendation. And then we set a budget committee date, and we would set that for probably our May meeting. It would just be ahead of the meeting, our normal meeting. So then that we'd have a budget committee, the budget committee would meet. They would then make a recommendation to this group, the governing body, and we would set a hearing date, and we would set the hearing date for June, and we would do all of our processes in between as far as public notifications in the background. So what that is basically saying is we all have homework if this is the choice, but we could then take what Jane will produce hopefully the next month or two before May, a budget of which she would propose and say, here's your expenditures, here's your revenues. Well, our revenues are whatever our expenditures are actually, because we move forward, but here's our anticipated expenditures for this next year, which is, I'm going to throw in the $150,000 building demolish. And then we can then budget for and put forward a formal budget. This process will get us to it, and we can start July 1st. I'll get into the building demolition and the bid, but I think we have the ability to split the bid between fiscal years and pay them a little bit in one fiscal year and then bulk in the other fiscal year. So that's an option for us to move forward. And we build that all into the budget. So it's that, or we have to figure out a way to demolish this building without a totally different methodology, or with our $150,000 maximum, and turn off the pumps for a while or something. And I don't know what the other answer is. So I think we're really up against this choice of if we would like to continue operating as a casual budget organization or a formal budget organization. The recommendation from Wayne, so I'm going to call him an attorney because he is for us to stick with a formal budget appropriations now and a process. And so that's my recommendation, is that everyone bring this next time, and then we will decide as a governing body next time that that's what we wish to do. So there's my theory presented. And as I said, you'll get this calendar sent out to everyone and that idea, but I wanted to open it up for discussion or comment. As if there's any worries or thoughts.
You've got bids then in discussion.
I don't have the bids in, and I'll get why that is in a minute.
Did you say we could do something else besides demolish the building? Did I hear that? No, I didn't hear that right.
It would be, we'd have to be creative. In other words, one of our entities could say, oh, I have public works crew that could do it and we're not gonna spend the money. We have to find some other way or spread the money over multiple years that we
Mhm.
can afford. It's gonna create, we have to create a budget finagling in order to stay under $150,000, and none of that's very convenient. So I think the real answer is there is only one answer.
Mhm.
Well, can't we just like declare an emergency and assess ourselves, each city in the thing, their portion of it and just do it?
The consortium body itself cannot spend more than 100
Oh, okay.
in
Okay.
budget law.
I
So
see.
that's where the consortium would
Oh,
get, so if the city were to say, yes, we'll step up and we'll bill, I'm not asking you to do this, by the way. If-
To you.
I'm comfortable, but then I'm always cold, so.
Fine.
Okay.
If the city of Newport were to say, this is so important to the city of Newport, we're gonna tear it down and we're gonna pay the bill. And then I'm gonna send the consortium a bill over the next 5 years. That is an alternate strategy
Mhm.
that gets us, the consortium then is fine. We didn't overexpend our budget authority, but someone would have to take that, and that's very delicate balance here of choosing. And yes, it could be done, declaring emergency, if it was that important. I don't think it's that important to any one entity, even though the building does need to come down. It's not an imminent threat to any individual or anything at the moment. I think we can move forward with doing
Yeah.
this as a process. As
Is there an estimated scrap value yet? I know someone could scrap it and get something for the metal.
There'll be some value back on the
Mhm.
metal. So actually, why don't I just dive into the building RFP real quick?
Okay, sorry, wait.
No, they are related. So
Okay.
because it's kind of the cause. And I have it here, and again, I will send it out with the minutes. However, we ran into one other snafu of which I do not know the full aspects of this. And I don't know if anyone here is going to be able to know further. Does the consortium have authority to enter into a $150,000 contract? Do we, is this the solid waste district entering into the contract on behalf of? And so I don't know the answer from Wayne. Our current attorneys didn't know the answer either about that. And so that's why we have this, it's what held this whole thing up, and I have it. December 28th is what I'm hoping to send this. This has been held. I'm waiting to get hold of Wayne again and pigeonhole him into a little corner and say, okay, I need some very clear answers. Can this consortium do this, or am I going to do it the district? And what that would mean is the consortium then would probably do an MOU with the solid waste district and say, dear solid waste district, please demolish that building on our behalf, send us a bill. And then I would go forth and do that as the county entity performing those duties for the consortium. That's a contract I think the attorneys were very comfortable with, but they didn't know about whose responsibility, can we enter into this kind of agreement with 6 entities, or does it have to go to each of your board or councils to be adopted? So does this RFP have to go to 7 different entities, six entities, to journey around and get approved in order to get processed? And that would take more time. So anyways, that's where I have it right here. It's ready. It's approved as to form and everything. I can send it as soon as we have that answer. So whether it's gonna be my name or the consortium.
Okay.
Has Tim seen it, Tim Johnson?
I don't know if Tim has seen this.
He might be a good
resource
resource
for
to
it.
have because
Yeah.
he has a good head for,
Yeah, I'll ask him and see if he knows.
for putting together these type of things.
Exactly. And so anyways, Wayne, as soon as I get back in touch with Wayne, I will have an answer, or I'll approach Tim and certainly ask. I will find the answer long before our next meeting, because I would like to then have this out on the streets before our next meeting. Is technically what we'll do. So we will send this to you via email or a message of some sort. And so that all of you know what we're doing with the RFP, but that getting the RFP on the street is a priority for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
So, but, and I, when you asked the question of dollars, when I called around people, they said, oh yeah, we could knock down a bill like that for $40,000. And then came back the $150,000 bid, and they're all, yeah, there's probably a little more to it. And then a couple people saw it, and they said, yeah, it's a big building, and you do the concrete. So I've not been given a lot of clarity from them. And so in this bid packet, which you're welcome to flip through right now if you like, the request is that they can either give us the metal for us to go sell, and we give it to Thompson's take it, and there'd be some sort of transfer of value, although there's low value to that because that's us transporting it. Or they can bring down their bid price as a result of the capturing the
Mhm.
materials. So that is baked into the cookie. And I don't know what the answer is until we get it out on the street. Is that helpful?
Helpful? Mhm.
Okay.
I get it. I get it, I think.
So we don't have to make a decision today whether we're going to do a budget, but ultimately what we're going to need next time is to make this decision. Are we going to go formal budget, or are we going to do casual budget? And we need these kind of things in front of us next time. So we're teeing this up. And thank you for appreciate your inquiries to this, because it helps us prepare. Anything else on budget related stuff? Moving forward then. The maintenance of the buildings. So demolition, I just kind of went through the RFP process. I also want to comment one other thing on the building. There was a windstorm, ice storm this last week. It has caused one of the bay doors. They have these gigantic bay doors, which if you took the tour, you saw these big white doors that went up, I don't know, 20 feet in the air. One of those has opened up enough that a person could crawl through. So we're going to have to go back and find a way to button that up so no one can crawl through. Although we don't anticipate any problems, we did assure that we would make sure. So that's something I'll be looking at. There'll be some small expense, or we can find maybe some scrap materials, but we're going to go try and button that up. So just for the record, the building is still secured though, other than that event, and we will continue monitoring and checking in on it. The RFP process will happen, and my goal is to have the RFP on the streets February 1st is really my goal. So I'm going to try and get Wayne buttoned down between now. My calls this morning were not answered. No, sorry, I shouldn't do that publicly. No, he's retired. So the well study, let's get on to good news stuff. So the well study. We will send at the end of this and with the minutes, the actual study itself and the findings from the engineer. I grabbed it real quick, but in a quick, fast nutshell, what we basically did is turned off the pumps in October, didn't turn them on until just this last week. We did have, building maintenance or pump maintenance. There was some damage from freezing of pipes while the pumps were off and the freezing event occurred. We had a couple pipes freeze and they had to get repaired. So there'll be some pump problems coming. And we have now successfully turned the pumps back on. So the pumps are back on and running right now. We anticipate another study in spring. We had some variations in data, and we were going to work in spring on correcting. It had to do with consistency of getting the exact same dates or spreads of time and of testing. When we hire someone to do it and they have other priorities such as out of waters, they don't always get it on the same date. So the county's going to step in. I'm going to have David, my new hired person, be the person who actually tests and finds the data for this. And so there's going to be a slight change of how we do it, some procedures. So we're going to do this test again in spring. And that way we'll have a little more consistent data so that when we go back to DEQ, we really are demonstrating something. But again, the outcome is when we turn off the wells, the leachate pumps, the water level comes up. And the worry was, as it comes up into the landfill garbage zone, it starts bringing out more leachate, more bad stuff comes out of this stuff. And the findings were exactly opposite, that as the water level came up, it meant there was more water in the pool and therefore less leachate in the total product. That's very good news for us, meaning at minimum, we could probably in the future, given DEQ's permission to do so, start shutting off the pumps during certain times of the year and leaving them off for extended periods of time of the year. And again, extensive savings for our group per month in leachate pumping. So we're working towards that as our goal, but that was the preliminary findings from this. We really have to go back and do this on a more consistent basis so that we have a little more scientifically rigorous data for giving to DEQ, but that's the upshot of this study.
I think I remember you'd explain that what goes in has to be, or what comes out has to be on par with what goes in as far as
Yes,
cleanliness and
that is correct.
stuff, dirty stuff in it, right? So this has been happening. It's been pretty clean
That is
coming
correct.
out.
Again,
Comparable.
2 seconds of landfill leachate. Water is pressured underground and is flowing underneath your landfill. And as water comes through this rock, there's a certain amount of gunk that's already existing in the rock that we don't want to see in normal tap water. And that's because there's Iron Mountain there and it has high iron content, high magnesium, it has a lot of things already in the rock. And what we're measuring on the other side is what did the landfill add to that? So, so there's bad stuff that's added already by nature. As it goes through the landfill, have we added anything horrifically more? And typically landfills do add quite a bit more. And that's what we've been pumping for 30 years. But after 30 years, is that mostly gone or is it? That's
So it's looking positive.
it's looking positive. It's,
Yeah.
it's not dripping a lot of goo down into the water is what.
When do you anticipate asking to turn those pumps off again?
So our engineer will send this to DEQ, the preliminary findings. We will do another study probably all spring and in June through August, send them those findings. He meaning Russ Bunker, our engineer, would like to do another little study during summer to see if there's really, we have to turn them on during summer or not, because if it rises back up, if you turn off the pumps and you get more leachate, that means you still have to get rid of the bad stuff. So we may have to pump during summers and just turn it off during winters is kind of what we're leaning towards. And we should know that by the end of summer-ish and approval from DEQ some months thereafter. So sometime in 2024, I think we're headed towards that.
It seems like that when you have more rain, you'd need to pump more, but is that just counterintuitive?
No, that is what the thinking is because it's washing more through, but it may have washed enough out already because we've been pumping it and we've been removing a lot of the gunk that has actually been washing the garbage. And what you want to be careful of when you turn off the pumps is it's going up into new areas of the garbage that hadn't washed previously, and that's what they're looking for. So.
Oh, garbage is fascinating.
Nothing's easy.
No, it's not. But to answer your, ultimately is, I think we are going to look at sometime this next year, being able to do this on a regular basis with DEQ's permission, turn these pumps off. And the question is it 1 month, 5 months, 6 months? I can tell the answer to Roger, but Russ is going to help us with that. So. Cool. And you'll get those reports and the findings and the little graphs that come with it with Nancy's minutes. Top cap maintenance, just a couple quick, easy things. We did some armoring during late summer last year, meaning we put rock on top of a spot where the rainwater was washing stuff out. That has held wonderfully. So the top cap maintenance is doing well. We do see a couple more trees that are coming up in a couple of areas, and so I may hire, I've been working with community corrections with my RV program. And we may get community corrections, so you might see a bill from community corrections. It's $650 for them for a day, whether they bring a huge crew or small crew. And so for $650, they may be able to go along, cut all these trees, use weed whackers and do some maintenance on top where we were previously having to get a tractor machine to do it. The tractor machine couldn't get to where all these trees are, so I'm looking at some other options, and this may be a
That's a
low
great idea.
cost option to use. So I'm looking into that for cap maintenance. So pathway to ending DEQ phase of the permit. Basically, this is Russ and I are working on the first steps, and I want to state this straightforward, how DEQ and the person who we have to work with at DEQ is a very straightforward, linear thinking and person who does not want to talk about our future. And so I invited him, as we chatted about, to come present to us how we get out of this permit. And he is the wrong individual. That individual who are overseeing our program is the wrong individual to ask for that. Because I chatted with him on the phone and he said, no, you can't do that yet. I said, well, I understand that. How do we, you can't do that. And so he was very in how we get from here to there. We have to demonstrate through these reports, well tests, just like we're doing here, that we do and don't have the amount of leachate allowable to get out of the permit. And that's the ultimate answer he is looking for before he's willing to talk about next steps. So I did talk to Russ, and we may invite Mr. North from Vista, who might be the right person to come in and talk to us about how we move into our next steps. How do we prepare, how many years this is? Because I'm trying to give us a vision. Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? How much longer is this washing of the garbage, as we were just chatting about? Something that happens all over the place and is successful and therefore it diminishes, or is this a forever thing that DEQ will never release us from the permit? We want to ask someone who has some expertise on these questions. And so that's why one of the reasons I put our post-closure planning, post-permit planning kind of on hold at the moment, because I think we need to understand what is in the water, which is we're starting to get that picture now. We're going to do more studies, and over this next year, we're going to get a lot more picture of what our water looks like. And it again comes down to water. What does our water look like? And how does DEQ determine that it is or is not something they wish to continue permitting?
You know, from the first meeting that we had, you stated that you thought DEQ was kind of making it up as they went. And that's the feeling I'm getting now is, you know, they don't really know what to guide us on at this point.
Yeah, for clarity and to restate that, DEQ 35 years ago started implementing these programs, and they have 30-year permits. So they're just learning what they're doing in all their post closures. And so I think that is a very fair statement, is that they may or may not have a guidebook from which they're following in order to get to this end. And our engineers are there to be our advocates to say, here is what we need to do to get us to that. And I think that's where we're going to use Roger and Russ, our two engineers, to their maximum.
That makes sense to me, yeah.
To do that advocacy.
Yeah.
And so I think we ought to get them here at some point. We'll have a little meeting virtually, probably, we'll have them come in and we'll start chatting about that. But it will probably be a little further along in our process so that we know a little bit more detail about what's in the water from these studies. To not belabor that point, what they're currently doing is they're not actually taking samples of the water and sending it to a lab on every sample. They have something that it measures conductivity. So if you have more gunk in the water, you get more conductivity, and you go, yeah, it probably is all bad stuff. If you have less gunk in the water, less conductivity, it means there's probably less gunk in the water. And so they're using a very simple measure, and we're gonna have to get the better measurements. And again, that's gonna cost us money for the engineering firms to feel very comfortable with giving analysis like that. And that's gonna be coming. But before we get there, we wanted to see the sort of the 100,000-foot flyover first. Does it look like we can get there?
Mhm.
And it's not quite ready yet because we're still finding material. When you turn off the pumps, we still have material that's higher than what's the background. So there's that.
I think when we first started meeting, the date of 2030 was mentioned as a end date, but I can see that is not firm.
It is
At all,
definitely not a
yeah.
firm date, and I tried very hard to get a DEQ answer to that.
Sure, what date, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's, we're not there yet. And so our best bet is Roger and Russ to get us that plan.
Well, darn,
And that'll
yeah.
cost us money to ask them to do that. Post closure on hold and overview of the tour. I just formally want to say, Molly Murphy with the Lincoln County Transit was awesome. She took us on that little drive to go visit the landfill. We really appreciated Lincoln County Transit for donating the bus. They
Mhm.
let us
That was nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
use that. It was
Yeah.
October 19th. It was a beautiful day. They picked the perfect day.
It
We told
was.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a very nice
was.
tour of the landfill. I think we all got a good idea of
there's
what
some
it is.
pictures. Susan, did you see the pictures? I should have printed some up and brought them.
Mind putting a couple of pictures in the minute, pick your
Yeah.
2 favorite pictures and throw them in the
Yeah.
minutes and go, here are the pictures of the tour.
I
And
took
say,
pictures too.
oh,
Sure, yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great.
I put a thank you in there to Lincoln County Transit.
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful. So there are no action items today, which is glorious because we have no to do. And I do want to mention that our next meeting is February 22nd at 1 p.m. here. If people would like to come in virtually, they can. We will make sure that's arranged, but we would need definitely a quorum, and more so, we need every single participant in our consortium to send their designated committee member for the budget committee. And so that is a requirement for next.
Whether
meeting.
they attend or not, we need that.
They need to be sent to Nancy in advance of or at the meeting. We will
Okay.
need that there because it will need to be approved at next meeting. And if they're not going to have that here, we may not have a budget to work with. So it's a critical item.
Mhm.
And so if you haven't sent in or acknowledged to Nancy before the next meeting, she will be calling you.
Or emailing.
Or emailing, yeah, something, somehow. Is there any other questions, thoughts, concerns, other items that people would like to bring up?
I just signed up for the LOC Spring Conference, and it will happen in April. And that's on the 26th, which, 25th is the spring conference, so I will
Okay.
be available that day.
And that is the one time on my budget calendar that I have no requirement. Obvious spring, it's the only time we currently have, and it sort of gives us a 1-month fudge date. But if you could make sure you have a budget committee member to
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
and that's all approved.
Okay,
In April, we do have to send off, this is the administrative part that Nancy and I and probably Jane need to take care of, is we do have to do the public notifications for the May meeting.
okay.
But there is not going to be a requirement for a consortium forum that I'm aware of. And besides, you don't have to carry the weight for everyone to have a forum. So I think that was just fine.
So you're saying we'll be at our LOC meeting
Yeah,
for the April date. So
Yeah.
In
whoever,
fact, there may be more,
Oh,
all the cities may be
Yeah.
wanting to attend.
We might
Yeah.
want to change that date, is just what I'm suggesting.
On that
Okay.
current, on that month, for that month.
Put that as an agenda item for next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
April's
Because I
meeting.
think every city is attending,
Oh.
but not every committee or council person will be there. I don't know, somebody from finance department, I'm not sure.
Okay.
LOC, what?
League of Oregon.
League of Oregon Cities. It's the spring conference on that date.
We
Okay,
might want to change it up to April 18th. That would be the.
A week
before.
the week
That would be
before.
week before.
And I'd say just put it on the agenda for next time as a recommendation
Let's see
to
if that
change the
works.
April 5th to April 18. And we'll just.
Yeah.
We will then make that happen.
okay.
If that works with your schedule, Paul, I know you.
You'd call Kathy, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just did it
Yeah.
10 minutes before I came, so I thought I better mention that because I
Good.
noticed I was down for garbage that day. And,
Gotta trash, talk trash with these
yes,
people.
exactly.
All right, hearing nothing else, I think I can adjourn this meeting unless there's any other topics. All right, you can turn off the recorder.
Thank you, Paul. You've been doing an awesome job on this, really. I
Mhm.
appreciate it.
It's not-
It's
This is fine. This is